question. Let's move on to another area that preoccupies executive minds when they're in search. We all know a thing or two about the value of networking. And yet what we hear typically is, well, my network's irrelevant. It's unstable. I can't count on it to help me with this search. It's virtually unusable. What do you say to an executive that has that feeling about their own network, Saundra?
I would say you're not alone.
Okay.
Um, an interesting data point. I've always known that 85% of executives get a job through network. I've always kind of known that. I've seen it throughout my career. You know, even in my world of chasing job orders, it was like, let's get to the job order before they find somebody in their network, which is not a concern at the lower levels. So I've always known it. But what I wasn't aware of is that for VP and C-level professionals, over half of them don't get a job through their first degree connections. It is usually a second or third degree connections. And in my landing interviews, a lot of them are complete and total strangers. So we tend to think of network as these are people I know and trust, and they know and trust me. And the reality is that the higher you go up the org chart, the more likelihood you have that those people are either in the job or they're retired. They don't, just the shape of it. When you're lower in the org chart, there's lots of positions here, there, and everywhere. The higher you go, there's just not something right there, but they might know somebody where there is. You just can't expect them to do that work for you. You have to have done the homework up front. Like I think one of the most prolific ways to blow out your network is to reach out to people because they're your network, the ones you do know, and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Who do you know you can introduce me to?
Yeah. And thinking about what you said and how it's not your first degree, what you consider your first degree, your closest, allies in your quest, it seems to connect very neatly to what you've just been telling us about the power of a powerful value story, which is something that will precede you, that will scale, that in a virus sort of way will reach people who you didn't even know knew something about you, correct?
Yes. I mean, Tony, you're a master storyteller. That's how stories work.
Right.
They stick in their mind. Um, Needs don't stick in our mind because needs change. So I'll give you an example for why you don't want to blow your network out by saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." When you say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," who do you know? Their mind starts to look for jobs, but they don't know of any because, at the executive level, an open job, that's kind of like a very rare situation. Um, so they're drawing a blank and they don't know how to help you. And everybody wants to be helpful. Your network's going to work really, really well for you, whether you know them or don't know them, or you're standing in line talking to them at Starbucks, of which I have 3 landing interviews, okay? Or you meet them at a conference, or you've reached out to them because you've targeted them, and you don't even have a warm introduction. The one thing that they all have in common, mostly, is that us as humans, the psychopathic ones, we all want a sense of high reward and low risk.
Mhm.
The reward in networking is that I got a chance to be useful. I got a chance to connect a problem with a solution. Now I look like a useful person to my network, and that's what we want. It's like a little rush we get. We're not just doing it for a future benefit. We're doing it because we get a little rush as a human being to connect a problem to a solution. But And that's one of the reasons we don't use resumes when we're networking, because if you send a resume to somebody and say, hey, send it to these guys, and there's no open job there, where's their sense of usefulness coming from? It's opposite. And then the risk goes up. Risk, example of risk would be I wouldn't know how to do the research. I wouldn't know who to target. I don't know what's going on in my network's lives. People don't, they're not all keeping up on where everybody's doing what on LinkedIn. And they don't even hold on to that information because it's you based on a temporary need. And they're
Mhm.
thinking, ah, Daniel, he's a sharp guy. He's going to find a job. So they kind of store it in their temporary, um, in the short-term memory, and they don't tend to keep it. As where a value proposition story, this is the problem I solve, isn't just based on a temporary need. It's based on a forever thing because that's what he does. So a good testament to that is a lot of the people we work with that after they land the job from the networking conversations that they've been coached on, they still have people calling them up saying, "Hey, could you talk to a buddy of mine? He's going through this scenario where they're trying to figure out, what applications they need for this go to market and I know you know a lot about that and could you talk to them? We're always looking for that. I want to feel useful." And that's the new sustainable networking
Mhm.
because you're building a brand that's a story in people's minds that's going to stick.